Why would the governor of Illinois strategically engineer a megacity's infrastructure for K-pop icons? This isn't just about music, it's a calculated masterstroke of billion-dollar economic diplomacy and cultural leverage. What makes Chicago the ultimate battleground for their unprecedented global dominance? Let's dissect the real power play. Number 7. The historic festival catalyst, J-Hope. When Illinois Governor JB Pritzker and state economic planners assessed the monumental revitalization of Chicago's post-pandemic hospitality and tourism economy, the benchmark for transformative cultural events invariably points to July 31, 2022, when Jungkook, known globally as J-Hope, headlined Lollapalooza at Grant Park. Making history as the very first South Korean artist to headline a major mainstream United States music festival in history, J-Hope did not merely deliver a headline performance, he orchestrated an unprecedented international economic convergence that fundamentally altered Chicago's municipal event economics. For Governor Pritzker, whose administration had prioritized aggressive tourism recovery initiatives through the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and the Choose Chicago Tourism Bureau following severe pandemic-era revenue deficits, J-Hope's presence represented the pinnacle of high-yield cultural diplomacy. The sheer data surrounding that single Sunday evening in Grant Park shattered industry expectations across the board. Over 105,000 attendees gathered inside the festival grounds, with festival organizers and live entertainment analysts confirming that single-day Sunday ticket sales spiked to historic sellout velocities immediately following his lineup announcement. Tens of thousands of global travelers descended upon Chicago from South Korea, Japan, Europe, Latin America, and every corner of the United States, creating an immediate, measurable windfall for Cook County's hospitality sector. Hotel occupancy rates across downtown Chicago and the Loop surged to near peak capacity, directly feeding municipal hotel accommodation taxes, restaurant patron revenues, and public transit utilization rates on the Chicago Transit Authority network. Beyond the physical footprint, the streaming figures registered by Hulu, which held exclusive domestic broadcasting rights, documented historic concurrent viewership records for a live musical performance, broadcasting the picturesque skyline of Chicago framed by Lake Michigan and Grant Park to millions of digital viewers worldwide. Merchandise revenue at the festival reached unprecedented highs, with queues spanning hours across the park perimeter as fans sought commemorative items, creating one of the highest per capita merchandise sales days in Lollapalooza's 31-year history. For Pritzker's strategic vision of Illinois as a premier gateway competing directly against traditional coastal powerhouses like New York and Los Angeles, J-Hope demonstrated that Chicago possessed the global magnetism, infrastructural scale, and cultural prestige necessary to host the pinnacle moments of 21st-century music history. The logistical execution required close coordination between municipal emergency management, the Chicago Park District, state transportation authorities, and festival producers. C3 Presents, showcasing the city's operational resilience under massive global scrutiny. What made this phenomenon truly indispensable to state leadership was the demographic profile of the audience, a highly organized, respectful, and economically active global consumer base whose direct spending infused vital liquidity into local businesses, from small minority-owned restaurants in Chinatown and the West Loop to major metropolitan transit arteries. J-Hope's performance was not merely an artistic triumph marked by an electric 18-song set backed by an immaculate live band and choreography, it was an undeniable validation of Illinois' investment in large-scale urban cultural infrastructure. This watershed moment proved to state administrators that engaging with the individual creative forces of BTS yields tangible, measurable, and long-lasting returns for the entire regional economy. Yet, while J-Hope conquered the wide-open expanse of Grant Park and redefined the modern American festival landscape, another member would soon turn an indoor arena into the epicenter of a high-intensity artistic and financial tour de force that Chicago will never forget. Number 6. The multi-night arena dominance, Suga. When examining the geographic distribution of major stadium and arena tours across the Midwest, Illinois state leadership under Governor JB Pritzker pays meticulous attention to multi-date residency models that transform suburban and municipal entertainment corridors into high-density economic engines, and no individual solo tour demonstrated this financial power more vividly than Min Yoongi, performing as August D. during his historic run at the Allstate Arena in May 2023. As part of his groundbreaking Suga August D-Day tour, the BTS rapper, producer, and songwriter secured 3 consecutive sold-out nights on May 3, 5, and 6, 2023, turning Rosemont and the greater Chicago metropolitan area into an epicenter of international travel, high-tier hospitality spending, and unprecedented live production excellence. For the state of Illinois, which consistently markets the Chicago metropolitan region as a dominant entertainment and convention destination to rival any coastal city, Suga's ability to sell out an iconic 18,000-plus capacity venue across 3 separate dates represented a monumental logistical and economic triumph. Unlike standard single-night tour stops where transient attendees depart immediately following a concert, a 3-night residency structurally alters consumer behavior by encouraging extended hotel stays, sustained commercial activity, and multi-day patronization of regional hospitality infrastructure. Fans from across North America, Latin America, Europe, and Asia traveled directly to O'Hare International Airport, one of the central pillars of Illinois' transport network, and immediately saturated the surrounding commercial zones in Rosemont, the village of Rosemont's entertainment district, and downtown Chicago. Local hotel occupancy rates in Cook County saw dramatic mid-week spikes that typically only occurred during massive corporate conventions, while surrounding retail venues, independent restaurants, and transport services recorded sustained revenue influxes over an entire 5-day period. This structural economic impact directly aligns with Governor Pritzker's aggressive economic development framework, which leverages major sporting, cultural, and live music events to maximize local sales taxes, amusement taxes, and state hospitality funds that support broader public investments. Suga's performance itself was a technical and conceptual masterpiece that pushed the boundaries of modern arena production, featuring a dynamic shifting stage that literally dissolved as the narrative progressed, state-of-the-art acoustic calibration, and high-intensity live band instrumentation that required the utmost operational coordination from local union stagehands, venue technicians, and municipal public safety personnel. The demand for these Chicago dates was so overwhelming that secondary ticket markets registered record-breaking valuation spikes, while official merchandise operations established sprawling, highly disciplined staging zones where thousands gathered for hours, generating massive commercial transactions that directly benefited venue operations and local service industries. Furthermore, Suga's deliberate selection of the Chicago market underscored a critical commercial reality recognized by state commerce officials. The Midwestern fan base is not merely a subsidiary demographic to the coastal markets, but a powerful, highly concentrated community capable of sustaining elite global tours with world-class purchasing power. By bringing his raw, introspective, and commercially historic D-Day narrative to Illinois for an extended stay, Min Yoongi provided a definitive case study in how global music icons can revitalize local economies beyond standard urban cores, proving to policymakers and investors alike that the Chicago metropolitan infrastructure is exceptionally equipped to execute the most demanding, high-profile multi-night live residencies in modern pop history. Yet, while Suga proved that raw musical virtuosity can command an entire metropolitan arena for days on end, the next member brought a unique blend of global diplomacy, high fashion, and monumental global streaming records that elevated Chicago into an international showcase of modern cultural prestige. Number 5. The Fine Arts and Cultural Diplomacy Anchor, RM. When Illinois policymakers and Governor JB Pritzker look at long-term economic prosperity, their focus extends far beyond traditional concert venues to the cornerstone of Chicago's global prestige, its world-class cultural institutions, fine arts heritage, and museum economy, where Kim Namjoon, the leader of BTS known globally as RM, has single-handedly generated an unprecedented wave of high-impact cultural tourism. As the global ambassador of modern Korean intellectualism and one of the world's most influential contemporary art patrons, RM's documented visits to the Art Institute of Chicago and various regional galleries during BTS's landmark tour stops transformed civic spaces into essential pilgrimage destinations for millions of international followers. For Governor Pritzker, who has consistently championed the Illinois Arts Council, invested millions in the Chicago Museum campus, and positioned Chicago as the cultural epicenter of the American heartland, RM represents the gold standard of cultural diplomacy that links youth culture directly to classical and modern fine arts. When RM shared his personal explorations of the Art Institute of Chicago, highlighting masterworks such as Georges Seurat's A Sunday on La Grande Jatte, Edward Hopper's Nighthawks, and modern abstract retrospectives. It catalyzed what museum curators and cultural analysts worldwide recognize as the RM effect, driving massive spikes in physical foot traffic, international memberships, and unprecedented digital engagement among a demographic traditionally difficult for classical art. Institutions to attract. State tourism authorities under the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity recognize that this specific brand of cultural engagement yields an exceptionally high-value economic ripple effect. Cultural tourists inspired by RM do not merely attend an event and leave, but spend days immersing themselves in the city's architectural boat tours, historic public libraries, Michelin-starred culinary ecosystems, and historic neighborhoods like the Loop, River North, and Hyde Park. Furthermore, RM's stature as an intellectual orator, demonstrated by his historic address before the United Nations General Assembly in New York, aligns seamlessly with Illinois' ambition to be seen not just as a Midwestern commercial transport hub, but as a global capital of progressive dialogue, arts patronage, and international cooperation. In an era where metropolitan centers compete fiercely for international travelers, RM's organic validation of Chicago's public art legacy, from Picasso's Daley Plaza sculpture to Anish Kapoor's Cloud Gate in Millennium Park, provided an organic, peerless promotional narrative that billions of marketing dollars could never artificially replicate. The synergy between Pritzker's civic investments in the arts and RM's organic cultural advocacy demonstrated to city leaders that engaging with BTS's leadership bridges the divide between mass-market entertainment and intellectual prestige, elevating Chicago's civic identity on the world stage. Yet, while RM brought global eyes to the timeless halls of Chicago's fine arts institutions, another member was busy setting absolute benchmarks in global pop performance, stadium-filling choreography, and record-breaking vocal power that electrified the city's most monumental athletic coliseum. Number 4. The Stadium Iconography and Live Performance Masterclass, Jimin. When municipal authorities and Governor JB Pritzker review the most defining moments in the modern history of Chicago's premier sporting and entertainment venues, the standard for enduring global spectacle inevitably returns to Soldier Field, where Park Jimin established an iconic legacy of stagecraft and vocal artistry that transformed the historic stadium into a sacred landmark for international music enthusiasts. During BTS's historic two-night, sold-out stand at Soldier Field on May 11th and 12th, 2019, during the Love Yourself, Speak Yourself World Tour, Jimin captured the world's attention when he delivered an immaculate, gravity-defying performance of his solo masterpiece Serendipity under freezing Midwestern temperatures and torrential Chicago rain, creating a viral global cultural moment that has since accumulated hundreds of millions of views across digital platforms. For Governor Pritzker, whose administration places enormous strategic value on utilizing iconic state assets like the Chicago Park District's Soldier Field to attract global mega events and demonstrate the city's ability to execute massive stadium spectacles under challenging meteorological conditions, Jimin's presence symbolized the unmatched resilience and peerless production standards of Chicago's live entertainment sector. The economic footprint generated by those historic Soldier Field dates delivered an unprecedented surge of commercial capital into the regional economy, as over 90,000 global attendees packed the venue across 2 consecutive evenings, generating tens of millions of dollars in direct consumer spending, premium hospitality bookings throughout the Magnificent Mile, and record-setting operational revenues for municipal transit and stadium logistics. Jimin's historic milestone as the first South Korean solo artist to achieve the #1 position on the Billboard Hot 100 with his breakout single, Like Crazy, in 2023 further amplified his status as an indispensable global asset, bridging mainstream Western pop dominance with unprecedented commercial purchasing power. As a global ambassador for premier luxury houses including Dior and Tiffany & Company, Jimin embodies the lucrative convergence of high fashion, elite athletic-level performance, and international cultural prestige, transforming Chicago's luxury retail corridors along Michigan Avenue and the Gold Coast into active epicenters of high-end international consumerism whenever his influence touches the city. For state policymakers focused on expanding Illinois' global footprint, Jimin represents the highest echelon of youth cultural influence, inspiring an intensely loyal, multi-generational international demographic whose sustained engagement directly fuels hotel occupancy taxes, fine dining revenues, and public tourism initiatives orchestrated by Choose Chicago. By consistently delivering masterclasses in contemporary choreography, vocal precision, and emotional vulnerability on Chicago's grandest stage, Park Jimin established an indelible bond between the city's architectural grandeur and the apex of 21st-century global pop performance, cementing Soldier Field as an essential destination in the international stadium circuit. Yet, while Jimin captured the hearts of stadium crowds with his breathtaking artistry and athletic grace, the next member commanded the global stage through a magnetic combination of soulful jazz sophistication, elite global fashion authority, and cinematic visual presence that redefined Chicago's modern cultural landscape. Number 3. The soulful jazz heritage and luxury aesthetics vanguard, V. When state economic strategists under Governor JB Pritzker evaluate the unique positioning of Chicago's cultural brand, they place immense value on the city's deep-rooted historical identity as the birthplace of modern urban blues, jazz innovation, and monumental mid-century architecture. And no global superstar embodies the organic intersection of classical soulful sophistication and modern luxury commerce more seamlessly than Kim Tae-young, known globally as V, throughout BTS's historic concert runs in Illinois, most notably during their landmark appearances at the Rosemont Allstate Arena and the massive sold-out stadium dates at Soldier Field. V captivated the metropolitan area by channeling a profound appreciation for vintage jazz melodies, classical saxophone roots, and timeless visual art, creating a unique cross-generational resonance that perfectly complements Chicago's status as a premier global cultural powerhouse. For Governor Pritzker, who has consistently prioritized the modernization and revitalization of Illinois' creative economies through major state grants and international tourism campaigns spearheaded by the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, V represents a transformative bridge between legacy musical heritage and cutting-edge global commerce. As the creative visionary behind his critically acclaimed solo album Layover, which showcased a delicate, masterful exploration of 1970s soul, jazz, and R&B, V demonstrated an artistic maturity and aesthetic discipline that mirrors the architectural and musical soul of Chicago, where historic venues from the Green Mill to Symphony Center celebrate acoustic elegance. Furthermore, V's peerless influence across the global high fashion ecosystem as a global brand ambassador for storied French luxury house Celine and legendary high jewelry Maison Cartier exerts an extraordinary financial gravity upon Chicago's premier retail corridors, including the Magnificent Mile on Michigan Avenue and the upscale boutiques of Oak Street and the Gold Coast. When international visitors inspired by V's distinct style, visual charisma, and creative endorsements travel to Chicago, they generate vital consumer liquidity that directly bolsters high-end luxury retail sales, municipal sales tax revenues, and the luxury hospitality sector across Cook County. His solo milestones, which include shattering digital engagement records worldwide, debuting at top tiers on the Billboard 200, and securing historic viewership across global multimedia channels, translate into immense cultural capital for any metropolitan host city, validating Illinois' strategic vision to compete directly with global fashion capitals like Paris, Milan, New York, and Tokyo. Moreover, V's cinematic charisma and natural ease in front of international audiences have repeatedly drawn monumental attention to Chicago's iconic urban landscapes, turning scenic strolls along the Chicago Riverwalk, views of the historic Tribune Tower, and visits to waterfront landmarks into viral global trends that generate millions of earned media impressions across social networks at zero cost to state taxpayers. For municipal planners and public safety coordinators, managing the colossal influx of diverse, highly engaged, and affluent global consumers who rally around V's artistic endeavors represents the ideal demographic profile. International travelers with high discretionary spending who stay longer, patronize independent culinary establishments throughout the West Loop and River North, and actively explore the city's architectural wonders. By establishing an enduring, authentic connection to Chicago's artistic identity and elevating the prestige of its world-renowned luxury and entertainment infrastructure, Kim Tae-young has cemented his reputation as an indispensable catalyst for the state's global cultural diplomacy and economic prominence. Yet, while V brought timeless elegance and unparalleled luxury magnetism to the historic streets of the Windy City, the next member commands a level of universally recognized charisma, silver screen charm, and stadium-shaking vocal authority that turns Chicago into an international celebration of pure pop majesty. Number 2. The universal mainstream diplomacy and high-tier commercial magnate, Gene. When economic planners and state leadership under Governor JB Pritzker design major international marketing campaigns to attract cross-generational global travelers, their highest priority centers on figures with universally recognized mainstream prestige, unquestioned vocal pedigree, and massive cross-demographic commercial reach, qualities embodied at the absolute highest level by Kim Seokjin, known worldwide as Gene. Throughout BTS's historic concert runs in Illinois, most notably their legendary stadium appearances at Soldier Field during the Love Yourself, Speak Yourself tour, Gene established a benchmark of live vocal mastery and stadium-filling theatrical presence, captivating over 90,000 attendees with his breathtaking live performance of Epiphany while playing the piano under freezing Midwestern rain, a moment that cemented his reputation among music critics and fans as an unparalleled vocal powerhouse. For Governor Pritzker, whose economic recovery agenda aggressively positions Chicago's premier convention, arts, and hospitality corridors as welcoming, world-class destinations for multi-generational families, high-spending international tourists, and mainstream commercial investors, Gene represents the ultimate cultural asset whose broad, universal appeal transcends traditional demographic barriers. His historic selection as a torchbearer representing South Korea for the 2024 Paris Summer Olympics further underscored his standing as an internationally revered diplomatic figure, drawing immense global attention and reinforcing the caliber of global leaders and icons that state officials seek to welcome to Illinois. In the commercial sphere, Gene's appointments as a global brand ambassador for storied heritage luxury houses including French high jewelry Maison Fred and Italian fashion powerhouse Gucci, alongside premier lifestyle and wellness brands like Alo Yoga and Laneige, directly impact the economic dynamics of Chicago's luxury retail corridors along Michigan Avenue's Magnificent Mile and the upscale boutiques of the Gold Coast. When Gene engages with brands or makes public appearances, his influence triggers immediate, measurable consumer surges, generating high-velocity retail sales, expanding state sales tax revenues, and packing luxury hotel properties across Cook County with affluent international travelers seeking exclusive brand activations and hospitality experiences. Beyond high-end retail, Gene's critically acclaimed solo releases, including the global smash hit, The Astronaut, co-written with British rock legends Coldplay, and his diverse catalog of emotionally resonant vocal tracks, have consistently dominated the Billboard charts, demonstrating an exceptional ability to bridge classic pop rock sensibilities with modern global streaming power. This broad musical and cultural resonance seamlessly aligns with Choose Chicago's strategic objective to promote the city's rich musical heritage, from the historic Chicago Symphony Orchestra to the bustling theater district in the Loop, proving that elite live performance remains a cornerstone of municipal economic vitality. For city logistical teams and transit coordinators, the audience attracted by Gene represents a highly organized, respectful, and economically powerful consumer base that maximizes foot traffic across the Chicago Transit Authority rail network, patronizes iconic culinary institutions from the West Loop to River North, and revitalizes the local service economy through extended stays and high per capita spending. By delivering unforgettable, stadium-defining vocal performances on Chicago's most iconic stages and commanding the attention of global mainstream media, Kim Seokjin has provided Illinois leadership with an undeniable model of cultural diplomacy, proving that world-class artistry and commercial elegance are vital catalysts for statewide economic growth and international prominence. Yet, while Gene captured the world with timeless elegance, pristine vocals, and diplomatic majesty, there is one final force whose record-shattering global pop dominance, billion-stream streaming supremacy, and unmatched youth cultural magnetism make him the undisputed number one priority for the future of Chicago's global entertainment empire. Number 1. The global economic apex and supreme cultural phenomenon, Jungkook. When Governor JB Pritzker and the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity construct their ultimate, most aggressive blueprint for transforming Chicago into the undisputed epicenter of 21st-century global commerce and international tourism, They look to the absolute pinnacle of modern pop monetization, a force of nature whose sheer economic gravity bends international markets, dictates global supply chains, and rewrites the history of music consumption, and that undeniable apex is Jungkook. To truly understand why state economic planners and municipal leaders prioritize Jungkook's presence above all other live entertainment variables, one must meticulously examine the staggering macroeconomic phenomenon known universally among financial analysts, Wall Street investors, and luxury retail executives as the Jungkook Effect, a highly documented, consistently proven commercial catalyst that triggers instant, massive liquidity events. When Jungkook was officially appointed as the global brand ambassador for the American heritage fashion house Calvin Klein in the spring of 2023, the financial implications for the global retail market were immediate, explosive, and earth-shattering. Following the official announcement of his partnership, PVH Corporation, the multi-billion-dollar parent company of Calvin Klein, experienced a monumental, historic surge in its stock market valuation, rocketing their shares by 20% to an incredible $87.93 per share in a matter of days. Financial industry analysts and market experts explicitly credited this massive influx of investor confidence and consumer demand with single-handedly rescuing the brand's quarterly financial trajectory, completely reversing months of steady decline, and propelling their stock to its absolute highest price point in over 6 years. The subsequent global launch of his highly anticipated limited edition capsule collection, Jungkook for Calvin Klein, generated an astonishing, record-breaking media impact value of $3.4 million within the very first 48 hours of its release, triggering immediate, total inventory sellouts across North America, European e-commerce sites, and massive Chinese digital retail platforms like Tmall. For a state like Illinois and a metropolitan powerhouse like Chicago, which relies heavily on the elite luxury retail corridors of the Magnificent Mile on North Michigan Avenue and the ultra-exclusive designer boutiques of the Gold Coast neighborhood to generate massive municipal sales tax revenues and state funding, hosting a global figure with this unprecedented level of hyper-concentrated purchasing power is the direct equivalent of securing a massive, high-yield municipal economic stimulus package. But Jungkook's absolute dominance is by no means confined to the luxury fashion sector. His monumental, record-shattering musical achievements represent a historical paradigm shift in global streaming infrastructure that directly impacts the high-stakes live entertainment economy of the American Midwest. With his historic, critically acclaimed debut solo single, 7, featuring American rapper Latto, Jungkook completely annihilated the established metrics of Western pop dominance, rocketing directly to the #1 spot on the United States Billboard Hot 100 chart, while simultaneously seizing the absolute summit of both the Billboard Global 200 and the Billboard Global XCL, US charts. His grip on the global music industry is so absolute that 7 shattered multiple Guinness World Records, including the record for the fastest music track in history to reach 1 billion streams on Spotify, achieving this monumental feat in just 108 days, obliterating previous benchmarks set by Western industry titans. His critically acclaimed solo studio album, Golden, further cemented this unprecedented legacy of dominance, breaking historic records by remaining firmly entrenched on the Spotify streaming charts for over 145 consecutive weeks and accumulating an astronomical, mind-bending 7.38 billion cumulative streams, officially establishing him as the most commercially successful and highly streamed Asian solo artist in the history of digital music. For Governor Pritzker, whose administration aggressively markets iconic, high-capacity Illinois venues like the historic Soldier Field and the sprawling United Center as the world's premier destinations for elite global mega events, Jungkook's proven, undeniable track record of filling colossal stadiums and commanding the attention of the entire planet is an indispensable municipal asset. During BTS's historic, globally broadcast two-night, sold-out residency at Soldier Field in May 2019 during the monumental Love Yourself, Speak Yourself World Tour, Jungkook delivered a masterclass in stadium-scale theatricality that instantly became municipal legend. In front of over 90,000 screaming global fans, Jungkook fearlessly took to the sky, flying high above the massive stadium crowd on a specialized wire harness during his breathtaking solo performance of Euphoria, an iconic, gravity-defying display of elite athletic artistry, flawless choreography, and pristine vocal perfection executed brilliantly in a freezing, torrential Chicago rain. That singular, awe-inspiring performance underscored to global event promoters that Chicago possesses the logistical capability, structural engineering, and municipal resilience to host the most technically demanding, visually spectacular, and physically ambitious live music productions on Earth. The sheer demographic scale and mobilized financial power of Jungkook's audience represent the ultimate, highest-tier target market for state tourism boards and Choose Chicago, a hyper-engaged, highly affluent, fiercely loyal, and technologically organized global community that routinely mobilizes across international borders, books out premium hospitality accommodations and luxury hotel suites throughout the loop, dines heavily at world-class, Michelin-starred culinary establishments in the West Loop and River North, and actively partakes in high-revenue civic activities like the Chicago Architecture Foundation Center River Cruise. Beyond his commercial and artistic supremacy, Jungkook's historic performance of Dreamers at the opening ceremony of the 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar, where he stood alone on the world's biggest broadcast stage in front of billions of global viewers, proved his unparalleled diplomatic and cultural weight, demonstrating an ability to command a universally unified global audience that municipal leaders dream of capturing for their own civic branding. Furthermore, Jungkook's unique position as a visionary cultural bridge who seamlessly and masterfully blends raw, rhythmic hip-hop, deep R&B sensibilities, and nostalgic UK garage beats with pristine modern pop perfection aligns perfectly with Chicago's own rich, foundational heritage of musical innovation. From the deep roots of urban blues and jazz to the cutting-edge evolution of modern house music and alternative hip-hop. His unprecedented, chart-topping collaboration with American R&B superstar Usher on the kinetic, Michael Jackson-esque remix of "Standing Next to You" serves as a definitive masterclass in cross-cultural artistic synergy, bridging distinct musical generations and genres in a way that resonates deeply with the diverse, culturally rich, and artistically educated population of the Chicago metropolitan area. When state officials, financial analysts, and civic leaders project the future of Illinois' entertainment, hospitality, and global tourism economy, they do not merely see a wildly popular international pop star, they recognize a peerless, one-man macroeconomic engine capable of dictating global fashion trends, shattering international digital streaming records, rescuing multi-billion-dollar corporate brands from the brink of financial disaster, and single-handedly revitalizing entire urban commercial zones through the sheer gravitational pull of his mere presence. The strategic, calculated prioritization of BTS and its members by the highest levels of the Illinois state government is ultimately driven by the undeniable, mathematically proven reality that aligning the monumental architectural grandeur, vast transit infrastructure, and logistical prowess of Chicago with the world-conquering, unstoppable momentum of Jungkook guarantees unprecedented global visibility, cements the city's absolute status as a top-tier global destination for international capital, and secures its permanent place at the absolute center of 21st-century cultural history. So the next time you see a towering, multi-story digital billboard lighting up the Kennedy Expressway or witness an ocean of fans converging upon a sold-out, roaring stadium on the shores of Lake Michigan, understand with absolute clarity that this is not just fleeting pop entertainment, it is a meticulously calculated, high-stakes alliance with the most powerful, lucrative, and culturally dominant phenomenon of our modern era, and Chicago is exactly where the absolute apex of the music industry belongs.